Hello, good day to all of you. My name is Teacher Jordan and I am happy to be part of your in-service training for teachers. I am here to discuss about special education. Special education provides students with identified disabilities specialized instruction designed to meet their unique learning needs, giving them the opportunity to develop to their fullest potential. In the Philippines, special education is delivered free of charge through the public education system. Special education is an umbrella term for all sorts of challenges. Some issues are obvious and some are harder to identify. The birth of special education in the Philippines was when the School for the Deaf and Blind in the Philippines was established in 1907. Some historians believe that this was the first special school in Asia. In 1976, the Philippine Association for the Deaf, or PAD, spearheaded the Hearing Conservation Week, which was born through the Presidential Proclamation 1587, duly signed by then-President Ferdinand E. Marcos. In 1991, this time initiated by the Philippine School for the Deaf, or PSD, and the Philippine Institute for the Deaf, or PID, then-President Corazon C. Aquino signed the Presidential Proclamation 829, declaring November 10 to 16 as Deaf Awareness Week, or DAW. As stated in the proclamation, it is in recognition of the deaf as the vital segment of society which can be transformed into a significant force in the efforts for national development and the need to focus public awareness on deafness, its prevention, and rehabilitation. Legal basis of special education. Special education in the Philippines is anchored on the following legal documents: Article 356 and 259 of Commonwealth Act No. 3203. The right of every child to live in an atmosphere conducive to his physical, moral, and intellectual development, and the concomitant duty of the government to promote the full growth of the faculties of every child. We also have Republic Act No. 7277, otherwise known as the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons. Disabled persons are part of the Philippine society. They have the same rights as other people to take their proper place in society. Our government takes actions to ensure that disabled persons are provided with access to quality education and ample opportunities to develop their skills. We, as educators, should ensure that children with disabilities have access to a free and appropriate public education and that schools provide special education to these children in the least restrictive environment possible, which means keeping them in general education classrooms whenever possible. Who are eligible for special education? Students determined eligible for special education services must meet all three of the following criteria. The student must have a disability or disabilities. The student's disability or disabilities adversely affect educational performance. The student's unique needs cannot be addressed through education in general education classes alone, with or without individual accommodations, and requires specially designed instruction. Teachers have no mandate or right to diagnose disabilities, but teachers' observation may serve as the basis for referral to the medical specialist, particularly the developmental pediatrician. Now let's move on to the first category of disability: deafness, hearing impairment. Hearing loss. This is a reduced ability to hear sounds in the same way as other people. Deafness. This occurs when a person cannot understand speech through hearing, even when sound is amplified. Profound deafness. This refers to a total lack of hearing. An individual with profound deafness is unable to detect sound at all. Hearing impairment occurs when there's a problem with or damage to one or more parts of the ear. Learning characteristics of deaf and hard of hearing students. People who have a hearing loss are either prelingually or postlingually deafened. People who are prelingually deafened have lost their hearing before they acquired language. People who are postlingually deafened acquired their hearing loss after they acquired language. For each group, the impact of the hearing loss and the degree of deafness will vary. Some students are able to hear high or low frequency or intensity sound. Some rely on spoken language. Many communicate with a combination of spoken language and sign language. Some use hearing aids to amplify sounds. Some may have cochlear implant during their early years. Many use sign language to communicate, and some are able to lip read. Let's move on to the next disability, and that is autism. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is a developmental disability that can cause significant social, communication, and behavioral challenges. People with ASD may communicate, interact, behave, and learn in ways that are different from most other people. The learning, thinking, and problem-solving abilities of people with ASD can range from gifted to severely challenged. Some people with ASD need a lot of help in their daily lives. Others need less. ASD now includes several conditions, like autistic disorder, pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, or PDD-NOS, and Asperger's syndrome. Children or adults with ASD might avoid eye contact and want to be alone, not look at objects when another person points at them, have trouble understanding other people's feelings or talking about their own feelings, appear to be unaware when people talk to them, but respond to other sounds, be very interested in people, but not know how to talk, play, or relate to them, or repeat words or phrases in place of normal language, sometimes referred to as echolalia, have trouble expressing their needs using typical words or emotions, not play pretend games, for example, not pretend to feed a doll, repeat actions over and over again, have trouble adapting when a routine changes. There is currently no cure for ASD. However, research shows that early intervention treatment services can improve a child's development. Early intervention services help children from birth to 3 years old learn important skills. It is important to talk to the doctor as soon as possible for some early interventions. Let's move on to visual impairment, including blindness. Visual impairment, including blindness, means an impairment in vision that, even with correction, adversely affects a child's educational performance. The term includes both partial sight and blindness. When vision loss goes undetected, children are delayed in developing a wide range of skills. Central to their learning will be touching, listening, smelling, tasting, moving, and using whatever vision they have. As accommodation, high-tech braille devices are available for students who are blind or visually impaired to access and produce Braille. We refer to mental disorders using different umbrella terms such as emotional disturbance, behavioral disorders, or mental illness. Beneath these umbrella terms, there is actually a wide range of specific conditions that differ from one another in their characteristics and treatment. These include, but are not limited to, anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, sometimes called manic depression, conduct disorders, eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD, and psychotic disorders. These types of students need medical and psychiatric interventions for proper educational placement. Let's move on to speech or language impairment. A communication disorder such as stuttering, impaired articulation, a language impairment, or a voice impairment that adversely affects a child's educational performance. A communication disorder such as stuttering provides an example of a fluency disorder. Other fluency issues include unusual word repetition and hesitant speech. Impaired articulation indicates impairments in which a child experiences challenges in pronouncing specific words. A language impairment can entail difficulty comprehending words properly, expressing oneself, and listening to others. Orthopedic impairments, defined as a bone, joint, or muscle-related disability that is so severe that it negatively affects a child's educational performance. Causes of orthopedic impairment range from genetic abnormalities, such as those that cause a missing arm or leg, to disorders like cerebral palsy, as well as other issues. Intellectual disability, once called mental retardation, we no longer use the term mental retardation. We use intellectual disability. Is characterized by below average intelligence or mental ability and a lack of skills necessary for day-to-day living. People with intellectual disabilities can and do learn new skills, but they learn them more slowly. There are varying degrees of intellectual disability, from mild to profound. Someone with intellectual disability has limitations in two areas. These areas are intellectual functioning and adaptive behaviors. Intellectual functioning, also known as IQ, refers to a person's ability to learn, reason, make decisions, and solve problems. Adaptive behaviors are skills necessary for day-to-day life, such as being able to communicate effectively, interact with others, and take care of oneself. Other terms we use for this activities of daily living and self-help skills. Multiple disabilities refers to concomitant simultaneous impairments such as intellectual disability, blindness, intellectual disability, orthopedic impairment, etc., the combination of which causes such severe educational needs that they cannot be accommodated in special education programs solely for one of the impairments. Traumatic brain injury. Traumatic brain injury, or TBI, is a non-degenerative, non-congenital insult to the brain from an external mechanical force, possibly leading to permanent or temporary impairment of cognitive, physical, and psychosocial functions, with an associated diminished or altered state of consciousness. Often, the term brain injury is used synonymously with head injury, which may not be associated with neurologic deficits. Let's move on to other health impairment, including ADHD. Other health impairments means having limited strength, vitality, or alertness, including a heightened alertness to environmental stimuli that results in limited alertness with respect to the educational environment. That is due to chronic or acute health problems that adversely affects a child's educational performance. These chronic or acute health problems may include asthma, attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, diabetes, epilepsy, a heart condition, hemophilia, lead poisoning, leukemia, nephritis, rheumatic fever, sickle cell anemia, and Tourette syndrome. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD is a mental health disorder that can cause above normal levels of hyperactive and impulsive behaviors. People with ADHD may also have trouble focusing their attention on single tasks or sitting still for long periods of time. Both adults and children can have ADHD. Although ADHD can't be cured, it can be successfully managed and some symptoms may improve as the child ages. So as an intervention, you may give him or her extra tasks to be more functional and productive. Specific learning disability including, among others, dyslexia, or learning disorder that involves difficulty in reading. Dyscalculia. It is a math learning disability that impairs an individual's ability to learn number-related concepts. And dysgraphia. It is a learning disability that affects writing abilities. Let's move on to classroom instruction. As modification is a change in the content of learning goal for a student. The first example is to allow alternative reading books and materials for special needs students. The books may be tailored to their interests and based on their reading level. You can provide opportunities to retake quizzes. A more common modification may be allowing students to make corrections on problems they previously got wrong. Some teachers reduce the number of tests for SPED students. These are modifications that regular students would not receive. Accommodation is a change in the way a student can access content or tests. The first example is preferential seating. Students get closer and closer to access to teacher during the lesson. Students can have extended time during examinations. Some special education teachers would allow the special needs learners to open their notebooks during tests or exams. Special needs students require differentiated instruction. Teachers can differentiate by 3 ways: the content, process, product. Classroom lessons and assignments should be broken down into smaller, more manageable tests. Formative assessment is important because these students may quickly fall behind their non-disabled peers. Graphic organizers will specifically help by outlining connections between concepts and ideas. Teachers may use questioning techniques to keep students engaged and help expand their existing knowledge. Classroom environment may be adapted for special education students. One way is to limit visual distractions. These include bright, dazzling posters, models, and figures. Teachers may create speaker rules. This will limit the amount of interruptions that may occur. Teachers may provide class schedule for further organization. Relaxing music would often help settle down special needs learners. Teachers may install protocols for actions such as going to the comfort room, sharpening pencils, eating inside the classroom, and much more. Students should have proper lighting so they can see the board and assignments. Special needs students must take preference in the seating arrangement. Those who are deaf and hard of hearing or with visual impairment may be seated in front. Behavior intervention strategies. SPED teachers today are becoming more and more aware of the applied behavior analysis. Many special needs teachers incorporate positive behavior intervention and support system. It can earn the students privileges, tokens, and rewards. Also, positive behavior intervention and strategies include designing routines, implementing silent signals, assigning tasks, and setting expectations. These strategies help encourage positive behaviors from individuals while simultaneously suppressing negative behaviors. Assistive technology does not include medical devices that are surgically implanted or the replacement of the device. Examples of assistive technology are the specialized wheelchair, switches and controls, various apps, pencil grips, on and off voice activation, calculators, and more. Assistive technology should lead to an increased productivity, performance, and learning. It could also be used for vision, hearing, memory, and more. Curriculum. Special needs learners benefit from emerging curriculum, which are projects and activities that have been inspired by student interests. Similarly, there is functional curriculum, which focuses on basic living skills along with vocational skills. Students with special needs may also be challenged with HOTS or higher order thinking skills. Special education usually requires a slower pace of curriculum delivery compared to regular students. Cooperative learning can be used as a way to foster soft skills for them. Inclusion. The inclusion movement is the belief that students with disabilities belong in the general education classroom. This movement is based on an idea that there are no excuses to leaving special needs students out of the general education classroom. The school just needs to find a way to make it work. And one way to make it work is by providing support to the students. The supports are designed to help students reach the ultimate goal of a diploma. And if it isn't working, schools create an alternative path to get a diploma. Families. Educators should look to build relationships with the families of their special needs students. The first step towards building a relationship with families is to create a safe and supportive environment for their special needs children. Educators should be professional in their meetings with their families. Families are going to have their concerns, and it's up to the teachers to explore these concerns. Educators also have the duty to inform to the parents the advancement and development of their children. That ends my presentation, and I hope that you learned something from it. Thank you. Take care, and God bless. Bye-bye.